Firstly, if we can turn to the events that we've seen quite recently off the coast of Indonesia, do you believe we're starting to see the new rules of engagement for Australia under Operation Sovereign Borders taking place?
Well, what we've seen over the last 48 hours is two groups reportedly of asylum seekers sent back to Indonesia. We've seen awful boat tragedy where reports are that many children have been involved, and yet we've heard nothing from the government. No information, no reports as to what our Australian personnel are facing out on the high seas and exactly how many human lives are being caught up in this awful circumstance.
Do you believe that the actions of Australia are perhaps putting lives at risk in this area?
Yes, I do. We can't be assuming that sending and turning boats around is a safe practice. It's simply not. It's dangerous. And it's not just dangerous for refugees, of course, it's dangerous for Australia's own personnel who are out there on the high seas. That's why former Navy officials have said that we shouldn't be engaging like this. It's why the United Nations refugee body has expressed serious concerns. The sad thing and the real tragedy of today's reports of the loss of life at sea is that refugees on board that boat, if there had been a safer and more orderly process for them to go through, assessment in Indonesia to then be safely resettled in Australia, those lives wouldn't be lost. Where is the commitment from this government to putting in place an orderly process that helps refugees reach safety? All we're hearing is cruel, harsh, close eyes, close ears approach, and they also want, of course, a media blackout, which means they're not just hiding the facts, they're trying to hide the refugees.
But Senator, under the previous government, lives were being lost at sea, so are you attributing anything more given there are now new operating procedures in place?
I think the policy of turning back boats and sending refugees back to potential danger does increase the safety impacts on refugees. But of course, both Labor and Liberal policies in relation to refugees have not done the humane thing, which is giving people a safe way to reach protection. If you did that, boosted assessments in places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, increased our intake, then these vulnerable refugees, including very young children, wouldn't have been on that boat yesterday.
But if we put in deterrence measures, surely anything that stops people boarding these boats is a
But
good
it's
thing.
not. But it's not. That's the problem, Andrew. These deterrence measures sound nice and media savvy, but they are not saving lives. And in fact, what we're seeing is more human suffering.
If we could turn to the IPCC report overnight on climate change, it has warned of more dire climatic events for Australia and other parts of the world. Do you believe the environmental movement has done enough in Australia to highlight this issue? Why is there so much scepticism?
I think this is a really important report for us all to take seriously. Environmental activists, advocates and of course the federal government alike. And what this report is showing is that we are on a collision course to environmental collapse and climate casualty. And this means unless we get really serious about tackling climate change, global warming and reducing the pollution in the atmosphere, we are putting at risk the future of our children's generation.
And just briefly before we go, is Christine Milne prosecuting this argument effectively on behalf of your party?
Yeah, I think Christine has always been the first out the blocks to say we have to tackle climate change seriously, we have to reduce pollution in the atmosphere, and what we need to do as a party is work together with those in the Australian community who are just gobsmacked at the denial approach of Tony Abbott, because we know that unless we get serious about reducing pollution, we are on a collision course of environmental collapse, and that impacts not just our children, more droughts, more bushfires, even the production of food is put at risk. We can't keep playing with this. We have to get serious.